Imagine a world of silence and darkness, unable to communicate any of your feelings, any of your wants, your needs, anything. This is what Helen Keller went through since as far as she could remember. I work with kids every day that have disabilities in the ER, and they are always having the doctors tell them that they can't do this, or they'll never end up walking again, or anything like that. But I see them do a lot of amazing things and come out ahead of what the doctors think they would do. So I was really impressed with Helen Keller's story. So she had a lot of obstacles to overcome through her childhood, and she ended up being a very inspirational leader in society and a humanitarian, and it was all from her sheer willpower of not giving up. So I'd like to talk about her childhood and her adulthood, and all the stuff that she overcame and the things she accomplished. So on biotruestory.com, biography.com, they talked about how her childhood, she was born a perfectly normal baby in 1880. She had they aren't sure which exactly illness that she got when she was 18 months old, but it was either rubella, meningitis, or what was the last one? Or scarlet fever. She ended up with a huge fever, and whenever she got done, her mom realized that she wasn't looking at anybody or hearing anybody, and found out she was completely blind and deaf. When she finished with all that, and she realized that she couldn't communicate with anybody, she became a very crazy child, like completely unruly, throwing big huge fits to everybody, and making her house unlivable for her poor parents. So at 6 years old, they decided to hire a teacher to help her learn how to communicate. And so they hired Anne Sullivan. She was also partially blind and had graduated from her college, so they hired her, and she taught her. She tried to teach her in the house. They ended up taking her to a little guest house where only her and Anne could live alone, and they managed to teach her, like she would put her hands on something like a doll and write doll. After she did the water, and Helen, after 2 weeks, finally connected what she was trying to do, said, "Oh, that's water." So then she learned 30 words the first day, and she just kept going to learn. She was an extremely smart person, very, very intelligent. Her adulthood, she continued to learn. She wanted to learn how to speak, and she did manage to do that, but she was never quite happy with her speaking voice because it was hard to understand, which how she did it in the first place is amazing, because if you can't hear and you can't see anybody and you don't know what speech sounds like, that's crazy. But she did manage to go, the American Foundation for the Blind that Helen worked for 4 years spoke a lot about her adulthood and her education. She went to Cambridge School for Young Ladies, and that prepared her for Radcliffe College, where she was the first blind deaf person to get her bachelor's degree. She, after that, kept going. She was a very prominent writer, very intelligent. She helped found a lot of things like the Blind War Relief Fund that became the Helen Keller International, which is still around today. She was a women's suffrage advocate, and she influenced a lot of important people like Mark Twain and Alexander Graham Bell, who fought for her a lot whenever people said, "She don't know what she's talking about, you can't listen to her, she's disabled," and she proved everybody wrong. And she ended up dying at 87 years old. So, I mean, she completely didn't give up. She could have easily been a wild, institutionalized person her whole life, and they could have wrote her off, but she was too smart for that, and she knew it, and she kept going. So, through sheer willpower, she overcame her childhood obstacles, became a very, very prominent person, and she touched people all over the world. She traveled a lot. And to end with her quote, she said, from her book, The Open Door, that she wrote in 1957, "I will not just live my life. I will not just spend my life. I will invest my life."